Newark Liberty International Airport enters its sixth straight day of flight delays. FlightAware.com says 28 flights have been delayed today already. Another 56 have been canceled. The FAA's site says today's delays are fewer than 15 minutes, though, which is good. But earlier in the week, the delays were hours long, imposed by the FAA because of staffing. So joining me now to discuss this more is CNN aviation analyst and former FAA inspector David Susi. David, thanks for being here. The backlog at Newark Airport started on Monday. I mean, what do you make of how this is all playing out, and do you anticipate it getting worse?
Well, I do anticipate it getting worse. There's quite a few issues that are going on. There were some maintenance issues, some things going on at the airport as well. So it's not only about staffing, but the fact that it is about staffing says a lot of things. One is that the air traffic controllers have kind of had enough. They're not going to work this overtime anymore. There's more retiring going on right now than there has been before. They're selecting where they want to work. It's a real shift, and Sean Duffy has his hands full trying to keep this thing staffed the way that it needs to be.
And, you know, the air traffic controller shortages have been well documented for years now, and not just obviously at Newark, they're clearly dealing with it, but countrywide as well. What is the FAA doing to address it? What are the difficulties in trying to address this problem, again, that has been an issue for years?
Well, the biggest problem that they have is the fact that you have to be literally the best and the brightest to be an air traffic controller. You can't be over 30 years old. You can't even apply if you're over 30 years old. So that's a really restricted amount of people that can do it. Now, once you go in there, I was at the FAA Academy in Oklahoma City and the Mike Mulrooney Aeronautical Center, and that's where they do the training. So during that time, the washout rate is about, at the time I was there, which was many years ago, but I think it's about the same now, was at least 50 to 60% of the people that came into the program got washed out, because it's a hard job. It's not for everybody, and you have to have a certain way of thinking. So you can't just go into the closet, pull a suit out and say, here's another position for someone. It takes years and years and years of prep to find the right person, to train the right person, and then to retain the right person as well. A lot of challenges.
And, you know, there's always a lot of layers of things going on at once. You know, you have what the FAA is doing, you have what the airlines are doing, you have what passengers are essentially left with or what they're dealing with. And this weekend, United Airlines says it's canceling 35 daily round trips from Newark Airport. The fact that they're already announcing that, does that signal anything to you? How should we be reading into that?
Well, the person I know that's doing that is the CEO of United Airlines, and I think it's a bold move. I haven't really heard of this before, to say, hey, we don't think that the FAA, it shows that there's no confidence from the airlines that they're going to be able to maintain these schedules. So they're protecting their passengers. They're stepping out and saying, if you guys can't support us, then we cannot maintain our schedules. So we're looking forward on that. Something that Sean Duffy and the FAA need to do more of is looking forward. And again, he has his hands full, but he's got to look further than just air traffic controllers. There's air traffic, there's aviation safety inspectors. There's a lot of depth to the FAA, which is also shorthanded. The air traffic controllers are just the front end, the front line, if you will. But there's a lot of other staffing in the back of the FAA that still needs to be filled as well.
And, you know, we're not quite to Memorial Day, but the summer travel season is essentially here as far as people booking flights. Do you expect this issue, or how are you looking at this issue, to potentially have ripple effects across other major airports? I mean, I guess the question in all of that is how should the FAA be preparing? How should airlines be preparing when clearly there are some issues here?
Well, the biggest problems we've had in the past have to do with union issues, and the fact that unions usually say, hey, we're going to strike during these high peak periods. So they need to foresee that. They need to understand that they need to retain these people and make sure that they're happy with their positions, where they work, what they do, and how their schedules look. They can't continue to work 6 days a week, 10 hours a day, over and over for years and years, and expect people to stay on the job.
David Susi, really appreciate the time and perspective. Thanks for being here.
Travelers flying through Newark Airport this weekend, they're experiencing the sixth day of delays now. The FAA imposed the ground delays, some lasting for more than 2 hours because of shortages in air traffic control staffing. United Airlines said it will cancel 35 round-trip flights each day starting this weekend. CNN correspondent Lee Waldman is following the latest from Newark Liberty Airport. Lee, what more are officials saying about this?
Well, Fred, from the last time we talked, the situation here at Newark is getting worse and worse. Officials are saying that it's a combination of issues, the technology being used, but also staffing shortages. Let's talk about the impact. So here you can see the airport around me getting a lot busier. At this point, according to the flight tracking website, FlightAware, more than 230 flights have already been delayed here today. 75 flights have been canceled altogether. You talked about how this is the 6th day in a row now where the FAA has placed this great program in place here at the Newark Airport, and it's because of those staffing shortages. We heard from United. They're canceling 35 round-trip flights from this airport starting this weekend because of that issue. It's something that we heard from the CEO, but we're also talking to passengers who are on the ground here about this issue, and they tell us that they're concerned and frustrated.
Have a lot of travel coming up, so hopefully they can resolve this quickly.
I think it's time to hire a new, more experienced staff. I'd be more confident in that.
So let's talk about the issue at hand here. Right now, over 3,000 air traffic control positions are open. The union that represents air traffic controllers, they say this shortage is nearly the worst that they've seen in 30 years, and they think it'll take 8 to 10 years to try and make up the shortage that we're experiencing right now. We heard from the Transportation Secretary, Sean Duffy, earlier this week, and he says they're rolling out these incentive programs to try and get people into this field. That includes $5,000 bonuses for people who go through the academy, and also offering some bonuses to keep people on until they reach the retirement age there. But it's not just this area that's experiencing some problems here, Fred. We're also hearing from the FAA website that the Albuquerque, Jacksonville, Chicago, and LA areas are experiencing some staffing issues.
All right. Lee Waldman, thanks so much at Newark Airport. All right, officials are now investigating the aborted landings of 2 commercial flights at Reagan National Airport on Thursday. New video showing a U.S. Army Black Hawk helicopter flying around the Pentagon nearby when it came dangerously close to one of those passenger jets. CNN's Pete Muntean joins us now from Washington, D.C. with more.
Helicopters near Reagan National Airport have faced intense scrutiny since the January 29th mid-air collision that killed 67 people. And this latest incident is eerily similar because it involves another Black Hawk helicopter from the very same Army unit involved in that crash, and 2 commercial flights coming into land at DCA. Thankfully, the FAA says air traffic control called off those flights' landings, avoiding collisions. But an early incident report shared with members of Congress says this was way too close. The first flight, Delta 1671, was 0.89 miles from the helicopter and separated by 400 feet of altitude. The second flight, Republic 5825, came within 0.4 miles and 200 feet, according to that preliminary data. The Black Hawk helicopter from the Army's 12th Aviation Battalion was about to land at the Pentagon. The preliminary report shared with members of Congress says it appeared the Black Hawk, quote, did not proceed directly to the Pentagon heliport and instead, quote, took a scenic route around the Pentagon versus proceeding directly from the west. Senator Maria Cantwell, the top Democrat on the Senate committee overseeing the FAA, says this incident occurred only a week since the Army battalion resumed flights in the D.C. area. She called the latest incident outrageous and called on the FAA and Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth to intervene before another disaster happens. By the way, both Delta Airlines and Republic Airways say they are cooperating with the NTSB's investigation that is just beginning. Pete Muntean, CNN, Washington.
All right, Pete, thank you so much. And the U.S. Army spokesperson responded to the incident with a statement saying, I'm quoting now, while conducting flight operations into the Pentagon in accordance with the published FAA flight routes and DCA air traffic control, UH-60 Black Hawk was directed by Pentagon Air Traffic Control to conduct a go-around overflying the Pentagon helipad in accordance with approved flight procedures. As a result, DCA Air Traffic Control issued a go-around to 2 civil fixed-wing aircraft to ensure the appropriate deconfliction of airspace. The incident is currently under investigation. The United States Army remains committed to aviation safety and conducting flight operations within all approved guidelines and procedures, end quote.